It's Doovie. I just came back from Europe. What a trip.
So on my way to Tenerife it was. After I dropped the vehicle off at the airport, I was already at the airport, so I was able to jump on or get over to where the train was gonna start. It was early in the morning, so the train hadn't started yet. I believe the train was called, or it was the Renfe station that I was going to, but there was a part of the airport that was connected to the train that was gonna take me to the train station, that was gonna take me out of the city and over to Valencia. Now I'd booked a few stops along the way, or at least one stop along the way before going directly to Tenerife to make it cheaper and to make the trip a lot faster. Well, in essence, it didn't work out to be faster, but in my mind it was faster, but I had to wait in the airport at Valencia, but we'll get into that. I booked my train ticket at the Renfe station, and it was gonna take me from Barcelona over to Valencia. I waited at the train station by the airport, and approximately maybe 6 a.m. or so, the train opened up for me to get over to the station that was gonna take me over to Valencia. So as I got over there, I took the train in the morning. When I got over there, I had to wait at the station. Went through a booking process with the ticket that I had already bought, and had to wait in the station for the train itself to leave to go over to Valencia. Now I was super beat. I was super tired because I hadn't gotten any sleep for the night as yet. I went to the party. I just finished going to the party in Barcelona, down by Barceloneta Beach, and I was beat. So for me, it was getting over to Valencia. I figured that it was a few hours ride. I would just sleep, which is what I did. Plus I had a bunch of bags with me, which is another thing. Traveling in Europe, traveling around Europe and navigating around, not the best idea to have a bunch of bags with you. One, because it's a lot you gotta lug around. Second, whenever flying, you gotta pay additional fees to check in your bags if you gotta check in anything that's heavier than probably 5 to 10 kilograms. You have to check them in. You can't have anything more than a knapsack or a backpack and maybe a small bag that you could carry in your hand or something that could fit under the seat. So I figured I would just sleep on a train ride. I got over to Valencia. I thought to myself, maybe I could stay in Valencia, check in my bags in the airport, leave them somewhere in some sort of storage, and then go around Valencia for the day, because I knew that I had about 12 to about 15 hours before I had to leave. Maybe even longer than that. Might have even been probably maybe even closer to 18 hours, 15 to 18 hours before my flight was leaving to go to Tenerife. So I was gonna check in my bags. That was the idea of what I was gonna do when I got to Valencia. But when I got over there, I tried to speak Spanish as best I could. I tried to relay the message or get the message across to whoever it was that would listen to me, people that worked within whatever facilities I was at. And they couldn't explain to me exactly where I could check in my bags or leave them and pay a storage fee and then travel around Valencia for the time being that I was there. So I was left having to take my bags with me. I was gonna take the bus at first, but my phone was dying. I just figured, let me jump in the cab because the phone was dying. I could have taken the bus. I wouldn't mind taking transit or the metro or whatever they refer to it as in Valencia, which is what I want to do because I like taking the transit to see, different ways around and how different places look and pass by different things, maybe get some scenic views of different areas. But it didn't work out for me that way. Plus it was raining that day too, which didn't add to the convenience of taking the bus at the time. So I jumped in a taxi. Taxi didn't cost me much though. It cost me about 15 euros to get from train station over to the airport. So once I got to the airport, I realized that the check-in they only allow you to check in up to even probably just as close as maybe an hour, maybe two before your actual flight takes off. Whereas when I was in a different place like Ireland, they allowed me to check in 6 hours prior to. Unfortunately for me, it didn't work out that way. I had to wait in the airport for 12, 18 hours, whatever the timing was. I know that I got there at some point, maybe just after 12 or 2 p.m. The following morning, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 a.m., something like that, somewhere around those times. So I had to wait in there. All I was really waiting for was for the lounge to open up. Because I know once a lounge opens up, I could go in there, I could go lounge out, I could go relax, I could get some food to eat, I could drink some water, get some fruits, get some snacks, whatever it was, keep my energy up and to make me feel more comfortable within the airport itself. As it did open up at 5 o'clock, though, I did go in there and I did sit in the lounge, but I was only in there for about an hour. The plane probably left some point just after 6 a.m. So I wasn't able to be in there for a long period of time. Lucky for me, I had a workout mat with me that I brought, one that rolled up. It was pretty thin, so I slept on the floor in the airport, but I was able to unravel that and laid out on the floor and slept right on the floor in the airport. I don't think anybody mugged me because everything was still in my bags when I got up, so I think I was good. That's what I was able to do. Roll out my exercise mat and sleep on it for a number of hours before I was able to go and check in. The lounge was all right. They had water. They had sparkling water. And they also had a little area where you could kind of lay out on to kind of sleep and catch Z's if you were tired. It was a little darker and had some kind of beach chairs, but thicker kind of chairs that you could lay out on. Thicker, softer material and kind of thick cushion. So that was cool for me. I was able to lay out on that for a while before actually jumping onto the plane that I was catching that morning. As the plane came, I didn't realize, and like I said, I didn't realize at that point that when you have a bunch of luggage, the bags itself, the check-in bags, they'll charge you somewhere upwards of 45 to 60 to even 70 or 80 euros just to check in your one bag. So which is why it pays, so if you can, stuff everything into a knapsack or some bag that you could carry on your back and just bring that on board with you, and maybe some sort of bag that you could carry in your hand. But it cost me to do that. So I booked my train ticket to Valencia from Barcelona for 32.45 euros, which was approximately just over $40 Canadian. So I booked my flight to Tenerife from Valencia for 77.45 euros, which was approximately in or around $100 Canadian. So when I got on the plane, or what I had realized is I actually booked priority seating. Well, what it did is it allowed me to bypass the line when boarding the plane, which I didn't know that I booked. I thought I booked for just the luggage or the check-in, but then I had to book the luggage and check-in additionally on top of that, not knowing that that's not what I booked. And I booked that for 19.99 euros for that alone. So I had to pay for that as well as the 45 euros for the check-in. So when I got onto the plane, obviously they allowed me to bypass the line. I got on and the plane was pretty packed that morning. I guess a lot of people wanted to make it over to Tenerife, and I don't blame them. Tenerife is a very, very, very beautiful place. Gorgeous. But we'll get into that. I got over to on the plane. It was a smooth ride. I enjoyed the trip. It was a couple hours. By the time I got there, it was the morning. I was refreshed because I got some sleep in the airport and I got a little bit of rest on the plane itself, and I was good to go. So I looked on my phone to try to find my way over to the South Airport. I checked on the GPS and I saw I looked for the buses that were making their way over there, and if I had to transfer buses or what it would have been. To make matters worse, it was raining outside. So I had to try to figure out a way to get over there. to the South Airport. Now, I wasn't gonna take the taxi because apparently it was a really far drive and it would have cost me all types of money to get over there. So that wasn't an option for me. I'd spoken to an attendant, and fortunately for me, she spoke English and she was able to help me to navigate my way at least onto that first bus. She explained to me what would happen afterwards once I'd get onto the second bus. But she told me that the bus that I was jumping on, which cost me €8, which is somewhere around 11 Canadian dollars or so, she told me that that bus would take me over to Santa Cruz. And in Santa Cruz, I could catch another bus. So I jumped on that bus. So when I got off the bus at the car rental location, I saw that they had a number of different vehicles there. It was kind of side slotted right off of the street, off of where the freeway or the highway was that I had come from. And it was just kind of off of it, but you had to get into it from another side road, not directly off of the highway. But anyways, I got into the rental and went to retrieve the vehicle that I got.
But again, for $100 for 5 days, $100 Canadian. So the damage on this place, on this thing. You see that? So I look around and show you there. $100 Canadian though. Talk about for 5 days. I got damage there.
The vehicle, I believe that I had rented it for about 15 to 20 euros a day. I want to say about 18 to 20 euros per day, which would have been just over 25, 26 Canadian dollars a day, somewhere within that range. And I got it for 5 days. I didn't know what to expect, what kind of vehicle I would have got. I mean, I would have been happy with any vehicle because at that price, it was pretty damn cheap to me anyway. So, you know, I could have got, you know, a little buggy vehicle, some sort of buggy, small hatchback vehicle. I would have been fine with it. But, you know, the lady over there, I mean, you know, I was talking to her. Maybe she was digging my style, or I don't know what it was. Maybe she was just in tune with me. But she offered me a Benz. It's been years since I had driven a Benz, but I was excited to have a Benz in Tenerife. I can move like a big boy out here while being in Tenerife, so I was happy about that. They sat me down. I had to charge my phone for a while. My phone at the time the battery would die quite often, more often than I'd want it to at least. Maybe because I had a lot of things on the phone. So she walked me over to the vehicle and showed me the vehicle that I was getting. Or another one of the employees there had walked me over to the vehicle. And I could see that was a Benz that I was getting. It seemed as though somebody got in an accident prior to me getting the vehicle because there was some damage along the side and it was dented along the side or close to the rear of the vehicle, which we had noted before me picking up the vehicle anyways. But there was some damage on the vehicle. But nonetheless, the vehicle looked good. It was a nice looking vehicle, and I would have hoped or I would have expected it to drive nice, which it did. The addresses are a little weird over there too. I had to put in the address 4 or 5 different times in order for the GPS on the vehicle to pick it up, because I was going to see a friend that I had in Tenerife that I was staying at, that I was going to stay at while there. But it kept coming up in different areas. I put in Puerto La Cruz, but eventually the vehicle picked up on the address that I put in. So, jumped in it. Gave it a once over, looked at it, and made my way over to the north. The highway drive was nice. I recorded a lot of footage of the hills that I saw, the houses, the different structures. I could see the skyline over the water as I was driving, as the water and the coast was right next to me. As I was driving on the highway going back, I could also see that in Tenerife, they have a lot of wind turbines. Now, I guess it's something that they probably pride themselves on. They generate, it seems like a lot of their power, or some of the power at least, they supplement with the wind turbines and what they're able to generate through that. Because I saw big areas with just a bunch of different wind turbines, which I recorded as well. Fortunately for me, the GPS was pretty accurate. It allowed me to get exactly to where I was going, which was Porto de la Cruz, or Porto de la Cruz. Made my way over there. When I got over there though, as I entered or got close to where my destination was, I saw a restaurant. I just saw a bunch of people crowded around a restaurant. It looked like, what I'd figured, because people were crowded around and waiting to get in there, that they had good food. And my friend hadn't reached back yet. They were still out attending to some matters that they had to deal with. So they weren't back home as yet. So I figured I'd stop at the restaurant. The restaurant was called Los Asadores. Now, Los Asadores, the food was absolutely magnificent.
Actually, I can get down with it. I'm already liking Tenerife.
I went there, I got it was actually a half of a grilled chicken.
Grilled chicken with salad and potatoes for $5.20. This shit.
Potatoes and small salad. And it cost me something like 6 euros, which is probably about 8-9 Canadian dollars. Very cheap for the food that I got, because I got a half a chicken. I mean, at a lot of restaurants you go to, even in Toronto, to get a quarter chicken, you're spending $10 with some rice and some veggies or something like that. Something along the lines of that. It was really cheap and I enjoyed it. I got a beer with it.
Here should be, I think this is $1.30. The thing, cheap though.
I think the beer costs about 150 euros, which would have been just over 2 Canadian dollars. And I had my meal. I was good to go. It filled me up. It was a great meal. After I was finished with the meal, my friend was finished doing what she was doing, and I was able to meet her over by her place, which was right down the road from there. So once I met up with my friend and we got in, I brought my bags in and got myself comfortable. I hadn't seen her in a while, so we had lots to talk about. She showed me up top on the roof. And when I got up on the roof, I actually saw a rainbow being formed in the ocean, which I had never seen before in Toronto.
There. That rainbow joint. Ooh, that shit.
It's a rainbow being formed from one side of the ocean to the next, which was pretty cool to me. Chilled up there for a little while, made our way back downstairs, and I took a shower and relaxed for the rest of the night to get myself ready for the following day. So when I got up, I was really anxious to get started with my workout. I mean, I'd been to Ireland, I'd been to Barcelona, and I was just having too much fun. I neglected to do my duties, which was get my workout in, because I actually brought a workout mat, I brought a weighted vest. Part of my vacation was to be working out, which is what I usually do. When I go on vacation, I'll go really hard for a number of days, do a lot of calisthenic workouts, just so I don't do the weight to overwhelm my muscles, and work out consistently and steadily throughout the time period that I'm not in the country. but I had neglected to do that while I was in Ireland and in Barcelona and Lloret de Mar. So this following morning, my friend had told me about a park that was right around the corner. And it was a pretty good park. They had some bars, I had my weighted vest, and I had the exercise mat if I needed it. So what I did is I threw on my exercise vest, and which was weighted, made my way over to the park that had the bars and the different little machines that they had that were embedded into the soil that I could utilize while being over there, which is what I did. So I was feeling like while I was in Ireland and in Spain and Barcelona and Lloret de Mar, I feel like I probably had gained a little bit of weight because I was just eating, no working out. I was happy, I was enjoying myself, but working out was a must. So that morning, I said for the remainder of the 5 days that I was in Tenerife, I was gonna work out each and every morning. So every morning for the next 5 days was a straight workout. Worked out each and every day. So basically, this was each and every day, every morning, me working out, getting in different body parts, or doing every different body part, different exercises every day of my own body weight, or just assisted with the weighted vest that I had. So after I finished working out that morning, I figured I want to go get some sun. Well, the sun was everywhere anyway, but I wanted to go down to the water, get down to the coast, and see how beautiful of a scenery it was, because I hadn't been down there as yet. The area that I was staying in was Puerto de la Cruz. Even over there, they had some animal parks, particularly Loro Parque, and a couple other fascinating places, hotels, and things that were directed towards the tourists that frequented the area. So I went and drove right down to the bottom of that particular area, close to the coast.
And that shit is vibrant.
Nope. I saw a lot of people down by the beach that they had over there. Saw a couple people in the water. I didn't go in the water. It looked like it may have been shallow up to a certain point. I just saw people kind of in their way out, freely kind of floating around. But over there, the people were. It seemed it was a nice view. I took a couple pictures and saw that. Looking around, saw that there was a lot more going on as I looked up into the hills. So I stood down there for a little while, took a couple pictures, walked around to the grocery store. I figured to myself, I might as well ascend into the hills and go as far up as I can. I hopped in the vehicle and I started to make my way up the hills via all the roads that I saw that were going in that direction. I didn't know exactly how I was gonna get there, but I was up for the challenge and up to the task.
Yeah, I'm way up here. So I had to go though. See if I can get up here. Let's keep going. But look at that. God damn. That's beautiful.
So I began my ascension up the hills, through the roads. So along the way, I stopped a few places.
See it under clouds are covering it.
Took some pictures, looked down, and saw how far I came.
Up even higher. Down there. That's where I started at. Somewhere down there. The skyline's crazy. I'm like in the clouds almost. Almost there.
It was really fascinating to see that as I went up, I could see the distinct difference between the skyline with the clouds and the sky met. It was a really beautiful view to look at that. And I saw it as I went up further and further. At first, the idea wasn't necessarily to go up into the clouds, but as I got up further, I could see that the clouds were coming closer to me. So I just met it halfway. So I kept going up.
Oh, yeah. See all the clouds right up in there? Look at that. That looks crazy.
Drove on these roads. I think I passed a couple villages. Some people that look like they'd never been down to the main part or that tourist area in years. I don't know, they just seem to have that type of look. I made my way up, stopped at every point that I could, took a couple photos, looked down. I just wanted to continue to see how far I'd gone and how far I'd come. One thing that was really interesting to me was how steep the hills were, how steep the roads were. I mean, at some points I was driving up these roads and I almost felt as though the car itself was gonna tip backwards. That's how steep it was.
Still gonna be steep, I felt like the car was gonna flip backwards a little while ago. Shit was skidding and oh man, that shit was frightening. Yeah, I'm going though. These roads are so steep. If you'll slip, you'll fall.
I saw cars parked on the road. I was nervous as I was going up. I was hoping none of those cars would just jump out of the parking that they had been set in and just start rolling down the hill. It was really steep. And people just lived up there. Like it was just some flatlands. But it was really steep. So I kept going up, stopped off, talked to a few people. People saw me taking pictures, looking around. Honestly, as I got up further and further, it was a bit frightening because it almost seemed like I was going into the abyss or something. A place that, some no man's land or some place that I wasn't meant to be.
Look at how misty it is up here. I'm like in the clouds. In the clouds. I don't know if I should be driving up this far. I don't know if I should be driving up here. I want this car to like turn back or some shit.
Clouds just kind of surrounded me as I drove up further into the hills. It just kind of surrounded me and everything else around me disappeared. As I got to the top, everything just seemed kind of eerie.
It's all fog, all clouds. Just in the clouds. Coming in my car.
Gates.
Way at the top already, they got like a gate. I don't know what's going on past there. I'm feeling like I'm in the Blair Witch Project or something. I'm about to turn around. Look at that steep ass. I'm not driving on that. It's really mine. Oh, what's going on over there? I'm turning back the way I came.
I don't know what they had locked behind those gates when I got to the top. But I jumped out of the vehicle and felt it. It felt cool in the air. Felt a slight breeze, but kind of still. And I walked around a bit in the clouds.
Way up here to the point where you can't even see anything down there. It's all clouds. It's like raining a little bit. It's like misty. It feels cool and breezy. That's what the clouds feel like.
The air seemed a bit thinner. I almost thought to myself, I might as well work out up here. It might build my cardiovascular strength a bit better, knowing that I'm working out in such thin air up in the clouds due to the altitude. But that was another thought. I know something I was gonna think of doing, but I also didn't want to just go missing or disappear by whoever it would be that would somehow make me disappear. So I went up there. It was an experience for me because I had never been in the clouds before. I've always talked about being on cloud 9, but I really made it. Yeah, so after being up there on the up in the clouds, I made my descent back down. It was just as fun on the way down as it was on the way up. A little nerve-wracking too because those hills are pretty steep and it was somewhat raining, so it was a little moist on the ground. So with those steep hills and the moist roads, at some points in time, or sometimes it can be a recipe for disaster. But I'm here, so I made it back safe. Puerto de la Cruz, I had a good time making my way up those hills and seeing what those hills and the clouds had to offer. But after that, I figured I would make my way over to
Rumbo a Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz.
Es como cerdo palabra y como tierra tal vez por eso rasta. No es un peinado, es un estado en muchos dreadlocks en todos lados.
Santa Cruz is, I guess it's probably the capital of that part of Tenerife, or one of the more populated or business sections of Tenerife. So I made my way over there because I passed it on the way getting to Puerto de la Cruz from the airport. So I figured I might as well stop there because it seemed like it was one of the more busier areas, or one of the more busier towns or cities within Tenerife. While I was there, I walked around for a bit. I got some sugarcane juice. That juice is alright. It was pretty good. They ran the sugarcane through I guess it squeezes it, a press. It's kind of like a press machine, and press out the juices. So I had some nice fresh cane juice. They call it caña. Can't remember how to say juice, but caña. And it was good. Walked around in the area for a bit. Spoke to a few people. They didn't understand what I said, but that was cool. I was still able to navigate my way around as best I could. Now, when I was over there, I hit up my friend. We were supposed to go somewhere, maybe go get something to eat or do some other things. But she was kind of occupied with some other things, so she had told me about a restaurant that was in the area. And she gave me some great advice, because when I went to that restaurant, it was a magnificent experience. The food was absolutely exquisite. It went by the name of Guanchinche Como en Casa, like at home, something along the lines of that. But I felt right at home, or at least the servers made me feel right at home. I had a guy, he was there, he got me some big piece of steak, a huge piece of, this is a T-bone, or I forgot what they call it, tomahawk, I believe it was a tomahawk. Big piece of beef, and they cut it up, sprinkled some salt on it. I guess they had probably seasoned to some degree, or however it was they did it. When they brought it to me, it was raw, but he stood up right in front of me and he cooked that bad boy right in front of me. I watched and I heard it sizzle.
This to that.
And as a matter of fact, it tickled my smelling senses as well, because it smelled absolutely delicious. He did it in front of me, cooked it. They gave me a nice salad, had some patatas, potatoes, or papas, and it was a great meal. I believe I had a glass of wine too. They gave it to me in one of those nice little wine cups, not the wine glass. It's one of those cups that I see people using a lot nowadays with wine. I don't drink too much wine, but when I do drink wine, I can appreciate it, especially given the fact that when you go to places like Spain and Tenerife, the wine is a lot cheaper than it is in Canada. That meal actually cost me, I believe it was less than 50 Canadian dollars. Could have been around 41, 42 Canadian dollars, about 55 Canadian dollars, somewhere within that range, either or. But we'll just say it was between 40 and 55 Canadian dollars, which was pretty cheap for what I had gotten, for the meal that I had gotten at the time. But it was an absolutely delicious meal. And the servers were great. The location was kind of on a bit of a back road. As a matter of fact, the street had the word Canada in it. I don't know if maybe they were expecting Canadians from time to time, and that maybe being the reason why they situated their restaurant right on the Canadian road, or the road that had the word Canada in it. But I guess that even when I read the name of the restaurant itself too, like at home, I guess it was like at home because I was on the street that had the word Canada in it. Needless to say, I enjoyed my experience there. Great meal, had a great time. The guys were great. So the following day, I got up, did my same workout routine in the morning, and then I wanted to head over to Loro Parque, which was right down the road, not too far from where I was staying, probably about a 5 to 10 minute drive, and it was close to where I started from before I made that ascension up into the clouds the day prior. So I wanted to go to the park. I wanted to see what it had to offer because I wasn't certain. I knew that they had a whale show, but I didn't know much more than that. That's what I was apprised of. That's what somebody had told me, or that was the belief or the understanding that I took from what Loro Parque had to offer. So I went over there that day. I was waiting for my compadre that didn't end up showing up at the time that my compadre was supposed to. So I ended up getting over there at about 3 p.m. or so, maybe 3 to 4 p.m. Now what ended up happening is when I got there and I spoke to the person working at the front desk, they told me that, well, I could get the ticket and I could purchase it, which was 32 euros, just over 40 Canadian dollars, and I could get it, but what people usually walk around on average is about 3 to 4 hours, which is what you need to see everything in totality throughout the whole place, go through all the shows that they have and all the exhibits. I said, damn it, and I didn't end up going in that day. But at least I knew for the following day. So I ended up leaving from there. I eventually met up with my friend and we went over to a restaurant. They had live music. The lady, she sang really well. She sang some stuff in English, and the patrons in the restaurant they couldn't really follow the English songs too well. But when those Spanish songs came on, I mean, everybody was tuned in and following with those songs, and I mean everybody in that restaurant. But it was a good experience listening to this lady sing, because she had a beautiful voice. So me and my friend, we drank some wine, a little bit of hard alcohol, had some food. She's vegetarian. I ate some meat as well as some vegetarian stuff. I believe I had these little round balls. I can't remember what they're called, but they had a bit of chicken in them, with some other potatoes and a few other things that it was comprised of, and they were deep fried. those are pretty good. I believe I had some salad, and I believe it would have been fish, if I'm not mistaken. Or it might have even been chicken. I can't recall right now. But the food itself, I can still taste it right now. It was good. It was very delectable. Delicious. So anyways, we were there for a while. We listened to the live band. She was really into it. That's like, she really loves that stuff. So we were there for an extended period of time, which was fine. Ate our food, had a couple of drinks, and left. Can't quite remember the name of the restaurant right now. Pretty sure you can probably see it somewhere here. It's a good restaurant. And it was located in Tenerife. I believe we were still in Puerto de la Cruz, but we were up higher in the hills somewhere. I used a lot of GPS. Maybe we should go back to the time before we had GPS. Probably have better memory and a better account of places that we'd frequent and go to, because we'd be forced to look at a map. But I use GPS, so I can't quite recall where it was that I was. But I do know that it was somewhere, the altitude was higher than normal, or than the lower parts of where I was staying. So after that, we had left and we went to see, and this was later on in the night. We went over to a couple spots that were in the area, still in Puerto de la Cruz. And there were just some little kind of bars. They had one at the bottom of a hotel. We had a couple drinks. The drinks were cheaper than in Canada, but still a bit pricey in there. They were probably around €8 or so, maybe €7, €9, within that range, which would have been between 10 to 12 Canadian dollars or so. We had a few drinks, and then we played darts. Now, I haven't played darts in years, but I played with my friend. She apparently plays darts often, and I still beat her. So there you go. I believe that was the end. Actually, we went further down, some other area where some other clubs were, or I guess nightclubs, bars. Bit of a distance, but I still believe we're still in Puerto de la Cruz. I can't quite recall the name right now. You'll probably see it again because I'll recall it at some point. But went to a club or nightclub around there. Got another few drinks, and called it a night. Now the following day, same routine, get up, work out, and then I made myself ready and available for Loro Parking.
When them a wish bad for we a wish good for them. Oh Lord, but them want to love the foot and top we and me the want to put broken that them. Let me sing again. When them a wish bad for we a wish good for them. Oh Lord.
Now, I went over there at a reasonable time. I believe they closed at either 5 or 6 o'clock. And I'd gotten there from about 1:30, 1 to 2 p.m.
About to go to Laurel Park. Laurel Park. Laurel Park.
So when I got in there, I moved somewhat quickly, but I was able to see everything they had to offer. When I got in, I saw some fish in a pond. They were all multicolored. Nothing out the usual nothing that I've never seen before, but still it looked nice. And then I went further in, saw some gorillas, apes. Went further, I saw all types of things, tigers, probably even some anteaters. I saw a killer whale show, seal show. The killer whale show was really interesting though. And one thing that they made me aware of when I was in there was that in Laurel Park, they first opened that place as a place to study sea creatures and other animals that were somewhat endangered. They wanted to study the habitat as well as their habits to know how we could better assist them in their living to help sustain their lives. So they brought in a bunch of animals. This was done through a few different countries in Europe. They came together, and as a union, they built this place to help understand and better direct whatever it was, resources towards helping and aiding in the sustainability of life for a lot of these animals and creatures, and or sea animals and creatures, and land animals, and whatever other animals that were in this park. And that's one of the main reasons why they created it. Now it's become a tourist attraction for people when they come over to Tenerife, because it's a nice place to frequent. They have decent food in there. They have a buffet. They have some nice souvenirs. You can take your pictures. And they had a bunch of different shows. There's a dolphin show. I saw a show with a bunch of birds, or parrots and a couple other birds. So I went around the whole place. I went around the whole interior of the place and saw everything from bats to rhinoceros to hippos to different snakes, you name it. They had everything you could think of. But it was a really good experience. Oh, even flamingos. The flamingos are really beautiful at the end. That was right before I was about to leave. And there was a bunch of them, and they were just running back and forth. But they have such a vibrant color that it's just so nice to see them run back and forth, because it's so bright. And it just seems like they're so full of life. But the shows were great, all of them. And at the ending, before I left, they at the beginning, it's when they actually took the picture when I first came in. And when I left, they post your picture right up on the bulletin board. You're kind of compelled into buying it. So I did. I believe it was somewhere around 8 euros. About 8 euros. 8 to 10 euros, somewhere within that range. Which would have been about 10 to 13 Canadian dollars. But I still have it to this day. And it's a good memory. So I thoroughly enjoyed Loro Park. Very nice place to frequent if you happen to go to Tenerife and happen to pass by Puerto de la Cruz. After Loro Parque, I was hungry. So I went to the restaurant that I usually went to every day after my workout, which was Los Asadores. Honestly, it is an absolutely amazing restaurant within itself. I switched it up a few times while I was there to go to other places throughout the days or in the nights or in the evenings, but Los Asadores, great price, great food. That particular night after the park, I went and I ordered the veal. So I got the veal, potatoes, salad with a beer. Cost me somewhere around just over 20 Canadian dollars. Would have been probably about 20 euros, so maybe closer to 30 Canadian, just under. But I got a nice big piece of veal with potatoes and salad, and that did it for me for the night. I went in and I K'd, and I was good. I'd been on my trip for a few weeks. I'd gone to Ireland, back to different parts of Spain, and Tenerife. I was sad to go, but I enjoyed myself overall. So that last morning, my friend had brought me to a nice little deli in the morning. And like I said, when it comes to Spain, they do a lot of sandwiches, bocadillos, I guess, all types of different in Spain, different parts of Spain. But that's like a staple for the morning. So we had gone there ahead, and we ordered just some kind of grilled sandwiches with some cheese, I can't recall if it was eggs, maybe some lettuce, tomatoes, some something along the lines of that. And we had coffee as well. And then I saw some cake, nice tea in the morning. I didn't eat it in the morning, but I still ordered it. It had some icing on it, so like a bonus for me. That's probably what drew me to it. But I ordered that, as well as we had the coffee and the sandwich for both me and her. It came to about just under 15 euros for both, with the coffees and the cake. But I ordered that, and we stood up top at a bit of a peak over, wasn't necessarily a mountain, but we were a bit higher than an area that was lower than us, as we could see that there was kind of a hill going down to some other residences. But where I sat, if you look right behind me in this picture, you can see a tit. Now that tit, well, that's the way that she kind of referred to it. But a tit at the top of that mountain. Now that mountain is Mount Teide. That mountain is the highest mountain, the highest peak of a mountain in all of Spain. It was right there, sitting right on my shoulder. That tit was right on my shoulder, which is fine. I had no problem with that. I think this is a great photo, but I didn't get to go to the mountain, get to see it up close and in person. It is a tourist destination for people, but it was captured right in the photo behind me. And it was just fascinating to me to be made aware that it was the highest mountain in all of Spain. So that was interesting. We had our breakfast, and my flight was, a few hours. And when I was in Ireland, I had missed my flight getting over to Madrid, which I never got to get to because I missed my flight. And I said to myself, that is not happening this time. I am not missing my flight. Now or never again. So I left quite early. I had to drive from the north back down to the south of Tenerife, which is where the car rental company was, closer to the airport in the south, as opposed to the north, which is where I actually was catching my flight from. So I had to get that hour ride in the rental back down to the south to go return the vehicle. Now, when I went to return the vehicle, it was still a good rental. I had a Benz, no complaint there. I spent about $100 for 5 days, which is pretty damn cheap. But when I got there, we walked around the vehicle because I had taken photos and video at first when I got there, and because they told me to go around the circumference of the vehicle or the perimeter of the vehicle and to see if there was any damage and to identify and report, which is what I did for the damages that I could visibly see when I took the vehicle. Now when I returned this, and I'd never heard of this before, there was damage underneath the vehicle, which technically could have been there before I even got the vehicle, because it was under the front bumper. It was kind of scraped a bit. I mean, anybody could have pulled in at whatever point in time to maybe a curb, maybe brushed some sort of rocks or gravel or something along the lines of that and scraped the bottom of that bumper. But everything kind of settled on me. Now, luckily for Capital One, because that's a credit card that I used to get my rental, they actually had the benefits that covered me as an insurance coverage if I use it to rent a vehicle whenever I was renting it abroad or even in the city if I'd be at home. So that is what I used to rent the vehicle. I usually use American Express, but American Express isn't accepted in a lot of different places, so I couldn't use it there. So I used my Capital One card, when I got the rental, so it actually covered. But still, I felt like them charging me was not justifiable because we don't know if it was there beforehand, which is why it's good to either get the insurance when you get a car rental abroad or to use a credit card that allows insurance coverage so that you're not hit with a bill that you got to pay out of pocket. After I dropped the vehicle off, I took the shuttle bus that brought me back to the south airport in Tenerife and went back the same way I took to get to the car rental company in the first place. I went on one bus, stopped in Santa Cruz, and from Santa Cruz went over to the northern part, to the North Airport in Tenerife. I got there probably about 3 hours early, 3.5 hours early or so, maybe even 4 hours early. And I just waited until I was able to check in. So even on my way back home, there was a number of flights I had to take. I was going from Tenerife to Valencia, from Valencia to Barcelona, Barcelona to Montreal, Montreal to Toronto. So I knew that I was gonna have a large wait period of time in between each destination, each place that I had to stop. So I know that because of that, the one thing and the one cool benefit that I had when traveling from one place to the next, or going from airport to airport, is that I have access to the lounges.
Like a 4 airport tour of lounges. I get a VIP priority pass. Like on a 4 airport tour. I see like 4 of them back to back. Funny shit.
Now the lounges themselves, they're like gold when it comes to the wait periods of time, or the wait time periods that you'd have from the time you check in to the time you fly out. And the lounges in most places, they'll offer alcohol, they'll offer food, some will have a shower, some will have and when I say food, I may be referring to snacks, and sometimes they'll have like full-blown like meals, all types of different things that you could lay out on, sometimes not beds, but kind of like cushioned lawn chairs, or so. It might be in a dark room or something, but they'll have water, they'll have refreshments, all types of things in there to make your time in the lounge as comfortable as possible while waiting. Now I have access to this through my American Express card. So when I got into Tenerife and checked in, they had a nice lounge. So I went in there, I walked around, got some food, I got some drinks, some snacks, some sandwiches, some fruits, some water, some juice, and just waited until a bit before it was my time to catch my flight. So that was cool. Now, I had already gone to the lounge in Valencia on the way over to Tenerife, so I knew what they had, and it was still nice though. When I was in the lounges, for the most part, I was usually not the only person, but there was very few people in there for whatever reason.
In another lounge, I'm like the only one in here though. I got alright stuff. I'm just drinking some coffee right now.
And those times when I was traveling back for Tenerife and Valencia, I was one of the only people in the lounge itself. So I went and I relaxed, got some food, some drinks, took some stuff on the flight, some sandwiches, whatever else that I could take with me to sustain me on my trip back. When I got to Barcelona had an amazing lounge. Too bad for me, by the time I plane got to Barcelona, it was a very short time period before my flight was to leave. And the thing that I didn't really understand about Barcelona is that when I had left from the lounge, a lady told me that it would take me about an hour or something along the lines of that to get from where the lounge was over to my flight. I couldn't really understand that. But what I had realized is that once you get from where the lounge was over to where the other side was, you gotta go through another gate. So I already had checked in originally from the gate to get into the airport, or get into where my flights would have been, where the departure flights were. And then I had to check in, or not check in, but wait in a long line through another gate to get over to the where my flight would have been taken up. Now in the lounge though, I was able to take a shower because I had been traveling about 15 hours up until that point, but I had been traveling a bit because I had some wait time periods in between.
Shit, finally I get to a lounge that has a shower. This was good. 12 hours ago.
So I was able to take a shower, and they had a nice shower. And Barcelona actually had the best food. I was able to, when I asked the lady, she gave me that information. I was able to take a couple of little tarts they had. I want to say they even had like hors d'oeuvres, but I didn't get to even look at them that closely to even analyze and see if they were hors d'oeuvres. I don't even know what hors d'oeuvres are, to be honest, but it just looked like something that would be called hors d'oeuvres. But anyways, they had some really nice food in that place. It looked like it was catered, well catered food that they had in Barcelona's airport. So that lounge is if you do ever go to Barcelona and you are taking that international flight, that lounge is an absolute gem. Amongst all the lounges I've been to, best lounge in Barcelona. Even though my stay was very short, I probably had about 5 to 10 minutes to eat anything. That was a very nice lounge that they had in Barcelona. What I didn't know is that with American Express, when you get to when I took the flight from Barcelona over to Montreal, that was about an 8-hour, 9-hour flight or so. Really long. I'd never taken a flight that long before. Might even been 10 hours. It was really long. That's all I did. But when I got to Montreal with American Express, they only allow you the access to the lounge if you're going on an international flight. But I was going domestic because I was going from Montreal to Toronto, so we were within the same country. So it didn't allow me access. They had a Maple Leaf lounge, and I guess that would have been the Air Canada lounge. I guess maybe if you're taking Air Canada and you get some sort of upgrade, you'd have had access to that lounge. But with American Express, I didn't have access to that lounge that they had in there because I was flying domestically and not internationally. But when I did get over to Montreal, I had another wait period as well, probably about 4 to 6 hours. But I just bought some Tim Hortons and relaxed and waited until my flight, which was 4 to 6 hours later, and got on my flight, got back home, and was happy to be at home. It was a bittersweet feeling because I had such a great time throughout all the places that I passed along the way, but I was also happy to be home because I was back to everything that I was used to and the life that I've gotten used to throughout my life. So it was a bittersweet feeling. But overall, my trip in Europe, for those 3 places, and mind you, this isn't my last trip, and this isn't the last you're gonna see of me. I got a number of different places that I'm going to frequent in Europe because Europe looks like it has a bunch of places to offer. As a matter of fact, we got all types of different continents to get to, and I'm gonna get to all of them. I had an excellent, fantastic time going around Europe to the places that I had went, and I'm definitely gonna do it again.